What if I told you that the most powerful weapon in modern history isn't a gun or a bomb, but a small piece of plastic in your pocket? A piece so simple, so ordinary that you barely think about it, yet it quietly controls your life. It dictates how you shop, how you save, how you dream, and even how you go broke. This is the story of how America's love affair with credit turned into an addiction that changed the world. An invention meant to offer convenience became the foundation of a trillion-dollar debt empire, one that keeps the global economy running, but also teetering on the edge of collapse. Our story begins in post-war America, the late 1940s and 1950s. The war was over, prosperity was booming, and Americans were dreaming bigger than ever. Suburbs expanded, cars filled driveways, and advertising painted a new picture of success, one built on consumption. But there was a problem. People wanted to buy more than they could afford. Cash was king, but it was slow, inconvenient, and limiting. Merchants wanted to sell more. Customers wanted to spend more. So the question became, could money itself be reinvented to make spending easier? The answer came from a dinner and a forgotten wallet. In 1949, a New York businessman named Frank McNamara went out to dinner, and when the bill came, he realized he'd forgotten his wallet. Embarrassed, he promised the restaurant he'd pay later. But that night, an idea was born. What if you could eat now and pay later without shame or delay? A year later, McNamara founded Diners Club, the first general-purpose charge card in history. At first, it was just for restaurants and travel. By 1951, over 20,000 people carried the card, a symbol of sophistication, not debt. But other companies saw something bigger, a new kind of gold rush. The 1950s and 1960s marked the birth of the credit card boom. Bank of America, then a regional bank in California, launched a bold experiment in 1958. They mailed 60,000 unsolicited credit cards to random citizens in Fresno. No applications, no background checks, just congratulations, you now have credit. The campaign was reckless, fraud exploded, people defaulted, but it also worked. Within a few years, Bank Americard, later renamed Visa, spread across the country. Soon, Mastercard, now Mastercard, joined in, and the competition to issue more credit began. In the 1970s, the consumer economy was built on this new invention. Shopping became effortless. Gas stations, department stores, and airlines all accepted plastic. But behind the convenience was a hidden transformation. America wasn't just buying, it was borrowing. The average household began carrying balances. Debt became normal. Banks discovered something extraordinary: interest income. You see, the real money wasn't made when people paid their bills on time. It was made when they didn't. The longer people carried balances, the more profitable credit became. By the 1980s, credit cards weren't just tools of convenience, they were financial traps dressed as freedom. In the early 1980s, a quiet legal revolution changed everything. The Marquette Supreme Court decision allowed banks to charge interest based on the laws of their home state, not the borrowers. This ruling unleashed a race to the bottom. States like South Dakota and Delaware scrapped usury laws entirely to attract banks. Credit card companies flooded in. Interest rates soared, fees multiplied, debt ballooned, and America, already comfortable with borrowing, began living permanently beyond its means. By the 1990s, credit card mailers filled mailboxes. Students on campuses were offered free T-shirts for signing up. Banks marketed debt as empowerment. You deserve it, the ad said. Why wait? But for millions of families, the dream turned into a trap. Household debt exploded. The average American carried 5 credit cards and thousands in unpaid balances, and when people couldn't pay, the collection industry was born. By the 2000s, America had fully embraced the credit lifestyle. Homes were financed, cars were financed, vacations were financed, even happiness in a way was borrowed. The credit system became the backbone of the US economy. 70% of GDP came from consumer spending, much of it fueled by credit, but that reliance came with a price. When the 2008 financial crisis hit, it wasn't just mortgage debt that collapsed, it was confidence in credit itself. Banks stopped lending. Consumers stopped spending, the system froze, and yet instead of reforming the addiction, the world doubled down. Quantitative easing and near-zero interest rates poured cheap money back into the system. Credit recovered, then exploded. In 2020, during the pandemic, stimulus checks and low rates triggered a new wave of borrowing. Today, total U.S. consumer debt has surpassed $17 trillion. Credit card debt alone crossed $1.1 trillion in 2023, an all-time record. And now, with interest rates climbing and wages stagnating, many households are teetering once again. Politicians promised reform, better disclosures, lower fees, consumer protections. But the truth is, the system doesn't want to be fixed. Credit powers everything from your daily purchases to Wall Street profits. It's the oxygen of modern capitalism. Cut it off and the economy suffocates. In fact, the more Americans borrow, the more GDP grows. The more debt they take on, the higher the stock market climbs in. It's a loop with no exit unless someone breaks the cycle. But who would dare? Banks? Never. Politicians? Unlikely. Consumers? Addicted. And so, the machine continues, fueled by interest, powered by psychology. In the 2020s, credit evolved once again, this time into invisible debt. Apple Pay. Buy now, pay later. Credit built into every app, every screen, every decision. You no longer need a card to borrow, just a click. The average Gen Z consumer now holds more revolving debt than any generation at their age before. Debt has become frictionless, normalized, and gamified. Every notification saying you're approved feels like progress, but it's just another chain in digital form. Meanwhile, the same banks that pioneered plastic are now building AI algorithms to predict your spending before you even swipe. The future isn't debt-free. It's debt-optimized. So what have we learned from 70 years of plastic prosperity? 3 truths stand out. Takeaway 1. Convenience always has a cost. What begins as innovation from credit cards to BNPL often hides long-term consequences. The system rewards speed, not stability. Takeaway 2. Debt is power for those who lend. Credit isn't equality, it's control. Every swipe strengthens the institutions that profit from delay, not repayment. Takeaway 3. The addiction is global. From London to Lagos, from Mumbai to Manhattan, the credit culture has gone worldwide. Nations now borrow like consumers, governments run on deficits. We've built an entire civilization on promises we hope we can keep. Credit changed the world. It built highways, homes, and dreams, but it also built chains that are invisible, yet unbreakable. We're living inside an economy that runs not on gold or oil or labor, but on belief. Belief that tomorrow will be richer than today, that the bill will always be paid someday. The question is, what happens when belief runs out? When the swipes stop and the balance comes due, what will we discover about the true cost of convenience? This was the story of the American credit boom, how plastic changed the world. If you found this story eye-opening, share it, because the more we understand the past, the better chance we have of surviving what's next.